Lisa Schader, welcome back to About Progress.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled.
I want to start by finding out from you a little bit of your own history. If budgeting and money and finances, was that something that you as a little kid were really interested in and good at?
So I definitely think it was in my DNA, my heritage, my family growing up of just being frugal. And I think that was mostly out of necessity. And so I was, I think, naturally frugal. I always loved math and numbers. I think when I became that person who couldn't stop talking about personal finance and specifically investing wasn't until college. So I got my degrees in accounting. My master's had an emphasis in tax, but that is not necessarily related to personal finance. But I had colleagues in the tax accounting world who struggled with personal
Mm.
financial choices. And that's when I realized this was not common sense. But I had one huge advantage, and that was that my husband and I had taken a personal finance class. That was just an elective. It wasn't even part of our coursework. And we were able to take it together. And it was taught by a professor who had worked in investing. And once you learn about the power of compound interest is one of the greatest miracles in the world. And people who know it and understand it also cannot stop talking about it. And so I did like a competition where you're supposed to teach about something, and it could have been about anything. And I chose to talk about the power of compound interest and investing because the miracle happens in decades. It's not like a get rich quick thing, but I could not stop talking about it. That's why I started that first blog, was because most of the mom blogs around money were about couponing and frugality,
Yeah.
which are, but they are not miraculous. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
this crazy thing. And I have to say, when I talk about money, because a lot of people have this hang up around a negative connotation about if you talk about building wealth or net worth, it is not about money. Money is a tool. Your greatest resource is actually your time. So when I talk about
Wow.
building wealth, I'm talking about the power to
Mm.
have your time back, to spend more time with your loved ones, to make the world a better place. And so I just always like to provide that context because a lot of people are just like, oh no, some people get it, but some people are raised to have this kind of puritanical view of money and wealth and just realize it's just a tool, and it's the
Yeah.
best tool to buy back our most important thing, which is our time.
I'm so glad you said that right off the bat. And also how you talked about another kind of, I guess, feeling we can have about money is that ugh, feeling like that means I need to coupon and and while that all can be part of it, it's about like pinching pennies. For you, it's about so much more. It's about the long-term vision of what financial freedom can do, especially for women. And so before we really dig in, I wanted to know that too. Why does it matter to you that women in particular get good at finances and not just the penny pinching, but beyond that?
Yes, absolutely. So women, specifically moms, who I know not all of your audience are moms, but I know a lot of them are the most financially vulnerable population in the world
Hmm.
because our income earning potential is affected by having children, because we're often, whether or not we're the primary caregivers, you still are balancing how, whether you're outsourcing childcare, it's always a difficulty. At the same time, we're the ones most effective by the outcome of finances. So I just posted about this the other day that 80% of women will be single when they die, which sounds really dark.
Huh.
The truth is that women outlive their spouses. So whether or not they get married or divorced, statistically, you're going to outlive. And the average is 12 and a half years. So it's not for a short time, it's for a long time.
That is a lot.
And even though women are more likely to be involved in the daily money management, such as budgeting and purchasing decisions, they are less likely to feel confident about these long-term, big picture finances, which honestly have such a bigger impact on your financial well-being. And yet we're the ones who are going to be living with the consequences
Hmm.
of that for a long time. And so my excitement is because it's just these little things, and it almost feels like secrets, but because it's just not in common knowledge that can make or break your long-term financial well-being. And I'm just so interested in getting that information into the hands of people who are going to be the ones who are going to have to live with it. Once you learn the basics, it will change your life
Hmm.
significantly and impact your health and well-being and stress. It's absolutely
Yeah.
life-changing. You can see how fired up about it, I get, because it's just this thing that can be so life-changing when you learn the basics.
It's almost like you should call yourself a financial educator and counselor because the two go hand in hand. Just the effect it can have on women, the toll of stress that finance can have on the day-to-day lives, but also in the trajectory of their life. And what I wanted to talk about were some of these basic slash common sense things that you believe everyone, especially women, should know and be doing about finances. So we're actually going to start with the mistakes though. What are the three big mistakes that most women are making when it comes to finances?
Yes, yeah, and even the word mistake, I have a very shame-free view of finances. I love to reframe that. We've all done the best we can with what we have, and so I like to see these as opportunities for improvement, some missed opportunities. One of the best
That's
analogies
smart.
I like for retirement is the Oregon Trail, because I don't know about you, I played that game
Oh
in
yeah.
school, and, right, you had to leave at a certain time, otherwise winter hit, and that's kind of how it is for retirement, is you gotta get going and get going at a certain pace to be able to hit these milestones and timing and get that retirement. And so for me, these mistakes or missed opportunity are like, you don't even know there's actually this supercharge button on your wagon or your oxen or whatever you're using on the Oregon Trail, your car, to
Love
just
that.
make it so much easier. And so this is not to like induce shame of, oh no, you're doing it wrong. It's like, hey, guess what?
Hmm.
This thing can get so much better. So mistake number one is budgeting but not tracking net worth. And that's not to disparage budgeting. It's great, but tracking your net worth is a game changer. Mistake number two is thinking investing has to be complicated. And some people just even shut down their brain as soon as they hear the word investing, because if you don't have a lot of familiarity, it's just feels like this thing that you don't do and never will do. But I'm telling you, it actually can be incredibly simple. And mistake three is not knowing your long term financial plan. A lot of people know their budget on a monthly basis or they kind of their budget on a yearly basis, but they're not necessarily having that long term, lifelong financial plan. So I would say those are the three most common, easily remedied mistakes or missed opportunities.
Can we go back to mistake number one? Because I'm one of those people when someone says net or gross, and like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have to ask my husband's an accountant. So every time I'm like, what's net and what's gross? What am I meaning? Every time. So when you say their net worth, what do you mean?
Yes. Yes, you're right. So net has to do with you're totaling something up and you're subtracting something. So your net worth is the total value of your assets, what you own. So your house, if you own it, that'd be the value of it if you sold it. All of your cash accounts, all of your investment and retirement accounts, anything you own minus your debt or what you owe. So if you have a mortgage, if you have any, I only put on credit cards if they are not paid off every month, basically any unpaid debt. So if you have car loan, student loan, any kind of home equity loan, any kind of debt, subtracted that. So what you own, your assets, minus what you owe, your debt equals your net worth. Okay, to be clear, I love budgeting. I do budget. I love it. It's a great way to make sure you live within your means, which is a key part of building wealth. But only looking at your cash accounts, I was trying to think of an analogy. Imagine going to Disneyland and never leaving Main Street. Can
Hmm.
you have a good time? Yes. But you are missing on the bigger picture. If you are doing finance and you're building this long-term net worth, is cash should be only a small part of your finances. So if you're only looking at your cash, you are not going to be doing the things that actually build worth, which is avoiding or paying off high interest debt and especially investing. A lot of times people are not motivated to invest because if the cash leaves their account and if you're not tracking all of those are their accounts, it falls off the face of the earth. And it doesn't feel like that exciting. But if you're only going to do one, track your net worth. I've worked with people who they were paying off debt. And honestly, budgeting was just not something they did. And all we did was spend 5 minutes just updating their account balances. If people don't know how to do this, I have a free challenge. And this is the first challenge you do. You can do it in a spreadsheet. There's tools that you can integrate all this instantly. So it really doesn't take a lot of time. But we went through and updated all their account balances. And their cash balances stayed relatively the same when they were paying off debt. But because they were tracked, their net worth was going up thousands every month and they became debt free
Hmm.
in a matter of months, because once you figure out what you're doing, it's amazing how much faster you can move. And then they would see these moments where, their 401k balance would go up and they say, oh, that doesn't count. We didn't actually contribute any to it. Exactly. Like you're putting your
Mhm.
money places where it is growing on its own and no longer putting in places where it's holding you back. So I've seen people say tracking your net worth changed the trajectory of their finances in such a huge way, because it just basically zooms you out to see the whole picture of building the net worth.
Okay, that's fascinating to me. So it's almost a mindset shift, right? It's changing your relationship with money and also your future. So that way you are spending it in ways that are more aligned with the bigger picture than just seeing things in the smaller picture. Is that right?
Yes, cash is really only meant to be for relatively short-term needs. And yes, like you absolutely should have an emergency fund. And that's why that's part of my Money Fit Challenge. It basically takes you through step by step. There's two more categories: people who are struggling, right, to spend less than they earn. And we work with that. And maybe there's nothing left over for investing. But another very common group I work with are the cash hoarders who let and they start to make more and it's great. And they can't stop hoarding cash, and investing terrifies them. But actually, the ironic part is they want to keep the cash because it helps them feel financially stable. But because of inflation and the missed opportunity of not investing is actually way more dangerous, because that cash is losing value every year to inflation. And
Wow.
investing helps you outpace that. So it's just helping to yes, cash is great up to a certain point, and then it starts to hold you back. So then once you see the bigger picture, okay, it's not God. Right? There's huge fluctuations in the short term, but over the long term, investing is the key to get you where you want to be, whether it's retiring on time or retiring early. It has to enter the equation, and you have to get beyond that cash hoarding mindset.
And also beating inflation because your money has grown to match where money has inflated too, which is fascinating. Okay, so let's review. Mistake number one, budgeting but not tracking your net worth. And how do we fix it?
Spend 5 minutes a month tracking your net worth.
5 minutes? Is that how long it takes? Because
Yeah,
to me, when you said that, I was
it
like, is that
literally
like
does.
20 minutes a month? Or
Yes. No. And actually, the first time you do it, it will take longer, because the other reason why I have people do it is it's an information gathering exercise, because
okay,
a lot of people don't even know all the accounts they have, right? They have an
yeah,
old 401k, they forgot about it. And this is an exercise that reminds them, like, oh, do I have that? Should I roll that over to an IRA? They don't have the logins. They have no idea what the balance is. And so the first time you do it, it does take longer because it's rounding up the accounts and the logins. I send out a tool that just links everything so you can track it really
great. I was going to
easily.
ask that.
But yeah, it's literally 5 minutes
Okay,
once you round up the list.
awesome. Let's go on to mistake number two, thinking investing has to be complicated. Raising my hand. That is very intimidating to me. So, what can they do if they're in that place of, I can see where you're coming from. I know you're right, but oh my gosh, I'm just like this. If they're me, I'm not speaking about myself. I'm just an English teacher. I'm not good with numbers. I won't know how to judge the stock market.
Yes. Yeah. So I will tell you, investing is one of those magical areas where the lazy method is actually better. And let me tell you what I mean. Imagine if the reality was the best way to clean your house is to do nothing, right? How great would that be? Or
Yes.
in order to run a marathon, all you had to do was calculate when you want to run the marathon by, and then figure out how many miles you wanted to do each each week to get there, and then do nothing. You didn't actually have to run. Like that's finance is one of these magical places where, because of technology, you literally can set it up, automate it, and forget it. I would say set it and forget it, because it was the tagline from one of my favorite infomercials when I was a kid. It's amazing. So
I
this is
love
what
that
I
it's
mean
an
by it.
infomercial. That
Yes.
that was you and me on Friday nights, Lisa. So
Yes. Oh my gosh.
continue.
So this is what I mean. So a lot of people, when they think of investing, they think of picking hot stocks and timing the stock market, which is what's called active investing. And statistically, the studies show that active investing underperforms passive investing, which is buying things
Mm,
like index funds. And if you don't know what that is, I will tell you, and holding them for decades. And think of the best analogy, and this is from someone called Jack Bogle, who created the index fund. He basically said, rather than trying to pick out needles in a haystack, buy the whole haystack. So what an index fund is right when you think of investing, you're thinking Apple, Amazon, Target, right? You're thinking of companies.
Mm.
So what came about, it used to be that you had to buy individual stocks because it was actually a physical paper and you were giving them actual money and you kept a paper in a safe deposit box. That's not the reality anymore, right? So back in the 1920s, they came up with mutual funds. But then the hot thing was the hot mutual fund manager who was outperforming all the other mutual funds. So Jack Bogle was an undergrad at Princeton, and he had a theory that paying these managers was actually holding back the returns. And so he created an index fund. All an index means is it's just all of the group of something. So like a index of a US equity means it has all the equities, or an S&P 500 index, it's the top 500 stocks, right? If you do a US, right, S&P 500, it has all of them. So that's what it means by the haystack. So rather than paying someone to go and pick out the needles, it's way cheaper to just take the whole haystack. And so he did a study and he was right, meaning sometimes people would outperform when they were actively managing it, but over time, because the fees reduced the return, it actually underperformed over time, meaning the vast majority of the time you were better off not paying someone to pick out the things and just buying all the things and make sure it's low fee. And people were paying like 1% or more, up to 5% of their money just for the ability to buy these special actively traded funds. And the fee on an index fund is 0.05%, not 5%, not even 0.1%, like a fraction of
That's amazing.
0.1%. And so maybe that's something you didn't know. And that's like probably the most technical thing I'll talk about, but I just want people to know, like, investing is not picking hot stocks and it's not trying to time the market. What I say all the time is it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market, because the miracle of compound interest happens in decades. And that's why I don't want people to sit on this, because now, even though life's crazy with kids or life, now is the time to start that clock, because the miracle of compound interest happens around decade 2, 3, 4. And if you're thinking, I have less decades than that to retirement, you actually need growth in retirement, like during retirement too.
Sure.
So it's never too late to start benefiting by this, but I just want people to get over just that little bit of intimidation factor, thinking they can't invest unless they can pick stocks or time the market. You don't want to do either. You can if that thrills you, but actually active investors, like I said, typically underperform.
Okay, just buy the haystack. So mistake
By
number
the
2,
haystack.
let's recap this. Thinking investing has to be complicated, and your fix was?
Learn about low fee index funds and ETFs. It's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. Set it and forget it.
Mistake number 3, you said this was not knowing your long-term financial plan. Tell us more.
Yes, the long-term financial plan can include all of things. Technically, this would include your asset protection, things like making sure you have long-term life insurance on your breadwinner. So that's why I built my free challenge, because it covers all those little things. But the most important thing to know about your long-term financial plan is, how are you going to buy the most expensive thing you'll ever buy? And people's mind instantly goes to house. House is the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. That's not true. The most expensive thing you will ever buy, anyone will ever buy, is your financial independence, also known as retirement. And that's a big thing. It's called the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early. Whether or not you want to retire early doesn't matter. Whether you just want to retire on time, you still need to understand this concept that retirement has almost nothing to do with age and just everything to do with reaching this point. I call it financial independence mountain, where once you reach the top is when you have enough investments to live off of your investment income alone. So you're not dependent on the income from your job to pay for your expenses. Retiring is optional. If you love your job, it still feels really great to know I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to. And the pace you want to do that is totally up to you, right? But understanding this concept of the sooner you start moving up that mountain, and absolutely take your time, enjoy the vistas. This is not about spending as little as possible. I just took 2 trips to Europe this year and felt zero financial guilt about it, because what we did is we built our long-term financial plan. So if you're only going to figure out one thing, it's calculating and automating your monthly retirement contributions. Because, like I said, there's a lot of parts, but that is the most expensive, most important part. And like I said, this is why financial goals are the easiest thing you can do, is because you can basically make it like any other bill where it automatically comes out of your account each month. And what that does is it helps you feel so good about spending because they've already taken care of it. The analogy I use that's used for a lot of things is right, the rocks, the pebbles, and the sand. And if you try to fit them in the jar, the sand first, the sand being like the fun, so like, oh, we buy the things, the, the kids' activities and the Halloween decorations and the home decor. And then the pebbles are the bills. And then the rocks are our big long-term financial goals. And if we try to do it in the wrong order, it's like, oh, I'll save more for retirement if there's any money left over. And there never is. But if you figure out this big, most important goal, put that in first, then you make sure that you have enough to cover your bills, and then you just know what's left over and you can spend it. I call it joyful spending, right? When you can
Yeah.
reframe knowing that it's still on track for your long-term financial goals, it feels so much better. All those big things are taken care of. And absolutely, you should spend on those things. Even though investments compound, so do memories. So that's a big thing, is realizing, yes, like I want you to do this, not so you're stressed about money. So the exact opposite. So those things are taken care of, and you can take the trips and the things that make your life easier, the things that help you build memories with your kids, because the sooner you do those things, the more time you have to enjoy those memories. And because time is our most precious resource, it hits differently when you know money you're spending is not going to deter your long-term financial journey.
That sounds like a big stress relief right there. And when you say automate your monthly retirement contribution, you're talking about like Roth IRAs, right? And then within those Roth IRAs, we go back to number two. That's when you invest in low fee index funds and ETFs. Have I got this right in my head?
Yes. Yeah. So once again, this is education, not advice, but that is a perfect example of something you would do when you automate it. So a lot of people, they do the most amount of their investing in their employer funds because like the 401k, because it's automatically withdrawn from their paycheck.
Okay.
And then I try to get people to see that is not limited to 401k. You can do the same with a Roth IRA. Is IRA stands for individual retirement account. It's something that's outside of your work. So you can contribute to it if you have earned income or if you are the primary caregiver. There's an exception. There's an annual limit. And that's when we started getting to these things. And that's why I create content every day, because I make a fun video to help people realize this stuff. But yeah, so that's a perfect example. But yes, so you figure out how much you can contribute, whether you're working with your tax professional or just researching on your own. You automate that. So it comes out as like a bill, like anything else thing. So it'll automatically contribute. And then I have it auto buy, let's say, an index fund that I want, and just automatically it will buy the investments that I want. It will just buy more of that investment. And if this intimidates you, there's so many options. There's robo advisors that are also low fee that will help you buy the investments if that is the part that wigs you out. But there's so many options.
Okay, this is fantastic. I want to just emphasize that we have had the fire hose experience here, but still in such a way that is digestible. So if they're loving this, they're going to love way more checking out your Instagram feed where you just take one little piece and you teach it in a way that makes so much sense. Like you've so over delivered today. Thank you. I know you also have a challenge and I want to take this challenge. So can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize. I get so fired up for the people.
I'm a fire
I just don't
hoser
keep
when it
doing it.
comes to personal
But
development.
yes,
So I get it.
no, I know. So yeah, if I said anything that you didn't get, this is what I say. I'm like, you don't need to remember anything. You didn't need to take notes. So this is why I created my free money challenge. It's an email challenge you can sign up for. It's free and it takes you through one challenge at a time. So you're not doing all of this on day one. So challenge number one is that top tip I recommended of calculate your net worth. And every challenge has videos and just step-by-step explanations. Like
It's
when I was
amazing.
listing out the types of assets and liabilities. So it's literally just one small challenge. A lot of people, if they're working with a partner, do it together. If they've had a hard time historically discussing money as a hot topic, this can be a great way to facilitate those discussions. But I promise every challenge is assuming you're starting from zero. You don't know anything about finance or investing. It's just slowly walking you through each challenge. If you have questions, you can reply to the email and it will email me. This is definitely a passion project for me. So the point is just to help people work through these basic financial tasks.
Tell us though where they need to go to sign up for the challenge. We'll put it in the show notes, but in case they're one of those people that like to hear it and then go search for it themselves.
Yes, you can go to my website, moneyfitmoms.com, or any of the social media is Money Fit Moms on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. Yeah.
And
Any
it's linked
social
there.
media, I'm there. Yeah. As Money Fit Moms. And then if you go to my links, it's the free money challenge.
So I have two more things. First, I want one simple way they can get started on what we learned today. What would that be?
Yes. So if you're only going to do one thing, even if you're not going to join the challenge, it would be calculate your net worth
Okay.
because it's going to do two things. It's going to be that information awareness, gaining exercise to figure out where are your things. And you will get so much out of that of if you're, let's say you're the primary caregiver and your spouse is working to say, hey, what are we contributing to your 401k? What's the balance? How do we log into it? Figuring out how to gain access to all of that. And it will help you zoom out and see the bigger picture. So it's not always bad news. You can just figure out where you are. And it's a great challenge.
I really am doing this, just so you know. Okay, now I did not prepare you for this. So this is like just came to me. I would love to do just a rapid fire session of you answering questions. What is your favorite tool for budgeting?
I love YNAB. You
Say it
need
one
a
more time.
budget. YNAB
Oh,
stands for, it's an acronym for you need a budget. It's not free. If you already have a budgeting tool or system that works, that you love, that's awesome. If it's not broke, don't fix it because YNAB is not easy. But I will say I've done them all and YNAB is significantly better because it's beyond budgeting. It's more about cash management, which is really what budgeting is. Um, but if you've done it before and given up on it, give it one more shot. If it just doesn't work for you, great. It's, I think, $99 a year, but it's because number one, they're not selling your data. They're not trying to sell you anything like pretty much all
wow.
the other like free budgeting tools
Didn't
are.
know.
Yeah. But also they provide support, meaning if you can't get something to work, which I have a master's in accounting, but when I was getting it set up, I had to contact customer support and they can work you through it or you say, with your permission, they can go in and fix anything that you're not sure about. So it's you're paying for a service, but anyone I know who has gone to YNAB and taken a few months to get situated can't go back to any other budgeting software
Okay,
in my experience. But like I
that's
said,
great
if
to
you're
know that.
happy with what you're using, great, stick with it and feel great about it.
Okay. Favorite tool for investing?
The investment firm I like is Vanguard. So Vanguard was founded by Jack Bogle, the one who invented the index fund. There are several though that have low fee index funds. Fidelity is one of them. Schwab is another one. I like Vanguard. Fidelity is more, I think, user friendly, especially for new investors. Vanguard is improving every day. Vanguard has the highest rated robo investor. That's the lowest cost once you hit a certain asset value. So that's why I like Vanguard is because you can take this little management quiz on their site to say, hey, what level of management do you think you need? And it has, from what I've compared, the lowest fee options for management. Just make sure you know what you're paying in fees and you feel great about how much you're paying in fees.
Okay. What is your favorite way to spend money personally?
Travel is 100% my favorite way to spend money. I don't care about home decor. If you can see this on video,
Looks great to
everything
me.
is probably like Facebook Marketplace or on super sale. But I think I'll have 13 trips this year. I did Paris, I did England and the Cotswolds. I'm going to New Orleans. I went to Disneyland with my oldest son. We take turns taking our kids on
Fun.
one-on-one trips. So experience over things for me all day, every day.
Brilliant. And last one. What's your favorite thing you're saving your money for?
We just finished our kitchen remodel. So that was the big savings goal. I'm, like I said, less into home decor, but my husband has become our primary chef and he really wanted to do that. So my ask was we had to be on track for early retirement and we had to save because I didn't want to finance a remodel. So we just finished that. And beyond that, it's just, once again, trips. I
Trips.
think the next home renovation, I think we're going to do like a hot tub or something in our backyard. But I told my husband
Fun.
he's not allowed to even say the word backyard until it's been at least a year of no renovation because the kitchen is a big one. So that's our excitement.
Love that. Well, thanks for being willing to do that unexpected series of questions, but I'm fascinated by your answer and everything you've taught us today. Not only has been so helpful, but also hopeful, which I personally needed. This is an area in my life that I'm very intimidated by. So Thank you, Lisa. And I hope people will join the challenge. We'll make sure to link to that as well as your Instagram and anywhere else they want to go. I appreciate you and your friendship and your time.
Thank you